Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. So excited about today's episode. I want to first say for you guys joining us on Amazon, I see you guys already coming in. Appreciate you guys being live with us. You guys get a special treat. Make sure you guys hit that follow button. You'll see it either here in this corner or down below. Also, you will see just a glimpse of the books from our next guest. We're so excited to welcome New York Times bestselling author Kate DiCamillo to our broadcast today. She's going to talk to us a little bit about her journey and what it's been like for her to entertain readers of all ages. But look what I have. I have her brand new book that people are already talking about, The Puppet of Spellhorse. We're going to talk to her not only about the new series, what it's been like for her to introduce these characters, and some great lessons for readers of all ages. We're going to get into that as well. Kate, thank you again for the time. Really do appreciate it.
I'm so grateful to be here with you, and we had so much fun. We've been talking books before we went live, so I mean, it's like that's what I love to do is talk books, and the kid you and the kid me connected over our love of books. So, we can start with the puppets, but before we do that, I was thinking maybe we could just talk about what you and I were talking about, that powerful thing that happens when an adult sees that a kid is a reader and needs books, because you were talking about your grandmother and I was talking about my mother, and it is a powerful thing to have somebody read with you, and it is a life-changing thing, and it's also something that can sustain you for the whole of your life if you get that as a child. So I just want to say what a privilege it is to write for this age and to be a part of somebody reading a book with somebody else. It is the best. And I feel so lucky to get to do this, to tell these stories for this age group. Okay. So should we talk about the puppets?
Well, look, hey, now I have no idea, Kate.
I just get so enthusiastic when
I know. Well, let's stay on that for a second, if you don't mind, because one thing that I thought about when I was prepping for your segment, of course, I enjoyed the book. We're going to remind our audience how they can be able to get it. But is that you have been able to bring joy to people through words, which is, to me, what I have tried to make my mission on this platform, and what I always try to encourage people, that everyone's voices matter. So I want to ask you, hello to you. We have a fellow author on Facebook says hello to you as well, Kate. Manswell is over there. When did you realize that as a gift, Kate, that you had a gift of making people feel something through the words that you wrote?
It's a lovely question, because it has taken me a long time to accept that love from people for that, joy. It's just, I remember when the very first book that I wrote is Because of Winn-Dixie. And I remember when I did the very first signing, when the book came out, and a librarian told me that she had read it to her class and that they had clapped at the end of the first chapter. And I could not believe that I could connect with people that I hadn't ever met, and that we were there together in story. So that was like 23 years ago. And my journey has been accepting the fact of that joy and giving it and getting it back through connection. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. And I mean, and I can see that after, them having that reaction after the first chapter. I think because, for one thing, it's very obvious, even though you've written a lot of books, you've had a lot of success, Kate, this is not a job for you. It feels like a mission. Is that what it feels like for you too?
Yeah. And this is, I'll say this to kids sometimes when I talk to a group of kids, to find what you're supposed to do in the world is a gift. To get to do it, to be allowed to do it, and then to get paid for it, that is the trifecta of joy. But even that thing of finding what you're supposed to do, that alone is just a real triumph. And I feel like that is what's happened to me. So it does it does feel like a mission, because it is. And you know what else feels like a mission is the thing that we were talking about earlier, which is letting people know how much it matters to get books into the hands of kids,
Yeah.
and kids and adults to connect through story. So.
Yeah. I see people on Amazon already clicking away over here. Kate, appreciate you guys. So, as I mentioned, we have just a snippet of the books that Kate, because she has written a lot. We have a snippet of those because we did want, of course, the star of today's show to be the newest book that you guys see here, The Puppets of Spellhorse. But of course, definitely feel free, click away, enjoy some of her other books as well for all ages. And to that point, Kate, I don't think it's by accident. I didn't even realize it when we scheduled this conversation that we're beginning Young Readers Week this week.
Oh, really?
And
Wow.
yeah, this is this Young Readers Week starts today. So I think it's so appropriate, for us to be having this conversation and talking about you, talking about this new book. But that gift of reading, and you and I did talk about that, and I don't want us to get too emotional with that because I could feel it coming as we were talking about it earlier, right?
Yeah, me too.
You had your mother to give you that. I had my grandmother, and even though my mother and my father were not readers, they supported that in me. So
Yeah.
talk to us about how that is carried over for you. You talked about the importance of young people having that today, but what do you think that meant for you?
What it meant for me was, this is the thing is I said this a lot, that my mom bought me books, read to me. I remember, I have very clear memories of sitting with her on the couch in between my brother and me and reading aloud. Took me to the library. But the thing was that, and this is something that you and I were talking about before we went on, that she just paid attention to me really carefully as a reader. She saw who I was, that it was something that was necessary to me. So she found, like, when I was in like second grade, I fell in love with Abraham Lincoln. And it was like, I read every book in the library that I could get my hands on that was at my reading level. And then there weren't any more. And my mother, this is before in the days of finding things on the internet, went and found an age appropriate biography of Lincoln for me, which I still have, because it does that thing where it was like my mom saw me, and we connected through her facilitating me as a reader. And without me, when people ask for writing advice, the first thing I always say is you have to read. And so my mom is directly responsible for me being a writer, because she made sure that I had the books that turned me into a writer by making me a reader. So
that is so powerful. Hello to you, Wendy. Wendy says hello to you over on Facebook as well, Wendy. Appreciate all of you guys joining us on other platforms, and I apologize if I didn't mention again, even though our audience that can actually click on the books now is on Amazon. We do welcome you guys on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, as well as YouTube as well. When you were just talking, Kate, another privilege I had in having this wonderful occupation is that I had a chance to interview LeVar Burton. And when you were just talking, I thought about what he said about his mother. And about him being the man he was because of her being who she was and encouraging him to read. And he said something that was so profound to me, and it was so powerful. He said, people say that you are what you eat. He says, but I truly believe you are what you read.
Right.
And I love that. And I had never thought about it that way. But I think what we consume definitely becomes a part of us. And I just made a segue here. The Puppets of Spellhorse.
I was impressed. I saw that you were going to be able to do it.
Yeah, has a lot of that too, because it's almost a story in a story.
Yes, yes, it is.
So talk to us about that. You've had so much success with other books. How did this particular series start for you?
I was over at a friend's house, and I saw a wolf puppet and an owl puppet on the shelf in her workroom, and I'm like, oh boy! I looked at them. I knew there was a story. I said, "Can I borrow those puppets?" And so I took them and I put them in my office here at home, and they sat there for like 2 years. This is one of the things that I've learned about writing. It's like you have to be patient. And I kept on trying to tell the story, and then it opened up with that magical word once. And when you and I were talking beforehand, you talked about how as an adult, and this is a wonderful point. And I would like to talk about this because
Hmm.
people think that kids' books are just for kids, but you responded to this and to the themes of this book. These puppets are trying to figure out their destiny, their fate, their place in the world,
Hmm.
and it happens through their connections with each other, the connections with the larger world, and the connections with the story that they're in.
Yeah.
And that has spoken. It speaks to kids, I know, because I've talked to kids about it, but it speaks to adults too. And
Mm.
to me, that's deeply moving because we all need to, even once we're, I'm 59, I'm still turning over the big questions,
Mm.
and and children's books help us to turn over those big questions, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I want to say about the puppets.
Yeah. And I think this book resonated with me for a couple reasons. Because one thing, talking about my parents and my family. Another thing that a lot of people, my audience doesn't even know this. I used to put on puppet shows for our family. And so when I started reading this book, I thought, wow, this is so interesting. And I had one of the family members, because I have to say I can't sing, but my puppets were trying to sing. And I have this distinct memory of one of them coming to me and saying, Cyrus, you seem to really enjoy this and we enjoy watching. We're going to get you, and this was big at the time, a tape recorder
Oh wow,
to be
yeah.
able to play music for your puppets to sing to. And I was like, really? I was so excited about that. But I bring that up because with this book, and I love what you said, and I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, but I love this idea of why I think adults need this book right now, Kate, because the world can try to control what we say, what we do. But it really shows with the puppets having this idea of what they were meant to do.
Yeah.
Was that something that was intentional, or was that something that evolved with the story?
No, and it wasn't intentional because this is something that we were saying beforehand, that you could see little pieces of wisdom in the book,
Hmm.
and this is what I found after doing this for almost a quarter of a century now. The story is smarter than I am, and
Wow.
the characters are smarter than I am. And so my job is to get out of the way and let that deeper wisdom of the story come through.
Mhm.
And then when I'm talking to readers, like talking to you, every time I talk to a reader, they point out something in the book that I wasn't aware of, and I can make sense of it after it's out in the world, only by talking to people who are readers, because it's like so many of the messages in it are hidden even from me. And I
Mhm.
love that thing about not letting the world control you, but listening to your inner voice that you just pointed out, which that you're right, we need that right now, don't we?
Yeah. And it comes through when the boy in the book, where he's given this proclamation of what he's going to be, and
Yeah.
then the girl trying to tell him what it's going to be like. And I think that is so fascinating to me when I was reading it. And that's what made it so exciting for me as a book. It's like, okay, this is because normally you think about the puppet master, right?
Yeah.
Being the one who has it all together. But sometimes there's still lessons to be learned there, right? That there's sometimes things aren't supposed to be all neat. And that was kind of the goal, right? To make things neat and and kind of be orderly. But sometimes you need a little bit of independence there. Was there any for you, considering where you are in your career right now, Kate? I'm curious about this. Did you have any thoughts of how this book would be received at this point?
Oh gosh. No, that's another thing, like when I'm talking about the story being smarter than me and I have to get out of my own way,
Right.
that's all connected to whether I sit there and think, uh-oh, are people going to like this? Or, oh no, I shouldn't. No, because if I started to think that way, Cyrus, I wouldn't be able to do it at all. So
Mm,
it's just like, I just think, okay, my job is to tell the story as well as I can, and
right.
then to let it go out into the world and hope that people receive it and find something that they need in it, which I mean, luckily that is what has happened. I've had so many people tell me that this was the book that they needed right now, which is
Yes.
really interesting to me. So, yeah.
Yeah. It is the book that we need, Kate. I think that's the thing.
Don't
And
make me cry. Don't make me cry.
well, no, and I say that because of this. I think it's the conversation we need that's in a safe space,
Mm,
right? Because you're allowing us to take characters that are outside of ourselves
mm,
that honestly make us look at ourselves.
mm.
You know,
That's what stories do, Cyrus, right?
yeah,
That's what they do. They
yeah,
give us that safe place for us to look at ourselves, to look at other people, and if there is any hope for all of us right now, it is that we can imagine our way into somebody else's heart
mm,
and a lot and also understand our own hearts, and stories can do that, and we need
yeah.
them so much. Yeah.
That brings up another question I asked you earlier in the conversation. Well, let me first say, because I do get it, I get lost in these and I forget. For those who are just tuning in, welcome. You're watching Cyrus Webb. I'm speaking with best-selling author Kate DiCamillo today. We're talking about her brand new book. You guys can see it here, The Puppets of Spell Horse. We're going to remind you how you can get it if you're not joining us on Amazon. If you guys are on Amazon, we have it highlighted in our carousel there. Feel free to click away to be able to get your own copy of it. I asked you earlier in the conversation, Kate, about when you recognize your voice and the power of your voice. I want to ask you a different question now. With all the success you've been able to have, has it been easy for you to trust that voice all the time?
Wow, you're asking me really deep questions. Um, I think that if there's one thing that I've learned over this journey of, like all the time I spent trying to get published and then being published, it's like that listening to my voice is the one thing that I've learned that is absolutely necessary. Showing up and doing the
Mm,
work,
yeah.
but that thing of like honoring that voice and not saying, is this what I should do, are people going to like this, is but rather honoring that still quiet voice that is always there. That is something that I have learned to rely on. Yeah, it's a beautiful question.
Well, I think it's something that again people struggle with, and I think it ties into this book.
Ah, yeah.
I think it ties into, and that's what made me think to ask you that, because I think that's what we all, as we're kind of playing our role, right?
Right.
You know, how do we know that it's right? You know what I'm saying? How do we
Yeah.
know that this is what we're
Yeah.
supposed to be doing? Or is it dependent on how people respond to it? Or our own comfort level with it for ourselves. And I think that's, to me, just one of the things that comes out in this book for
That's a
sure.
beautiful point, a
Yeah.
beautiful point. And if you think that I'm not gonna steal that from you and go forward in talking about this book, yes, again, it's that thing of listening, ha
Yeah.
talking with yourself,
Mm,
knowing yourself,
yeah.
right? Yeah,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah,
beautiful
and not
thing.
letting people tell you. And I think that is, again, that's why I said that we need this now, because there's so much of trying to be the next so and so instead of embracing who you're supposed to be as an individual.
Right, right.
Authentic yourself. And I think that's what we're able to see with the puppets, what they're able to realize, and why I think this story really does matter. So, I think, for those who are just finding out about this, I mentioned the series. So, did you know going in it was going to be a series? Because you mentioned, I love how you talked about having those puppets at your house. So, when it finally hit you, did you know it was going to be more than one book?
Well, it is a very, very loosely linked thing. So what happened is
Okay.
I did this fairy tale novella, and then we were thick in the pandemic, and I thought, I need another story that feels like that. And
Hmm.
so it is not the puppets, but it is
Okay.
loosely linked. So, and it was just I was like, I loved being in that fairy tale land of possibility and
Love
it
that.
being relatively short. So that was how I thought of the second one.
How's the threat? Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. Luana, hello to you. Luana says hello to you as well over
Hello,
on
hello.
Facebook. And I think, for people, and I appreciate you saying that, Kate. So it kind of gives an idea of what we can expect. So to be able to create your own fairy tales, I mean, what is that like? I mean, we all grew up reading them, What is it like now to create them?
Yeah, it is the best. And it's like there is a door in my brain that I didn't know was there. And I've opened it up and there's all this stuff behind it. So it's
Mhm.
just like, and in a weird way, I do think that it was the pandemic that kind of like, because I felt it was that thing of I needed something like this. And
Right.
so it was like the kid in me needed it. And that was what, like I said, I found this door in my brain that I didn't know was there.
Yeah. Well, Kate, this time is with you has been amazing. Thank you so much for being generous with your time today. Again, everyone, we've been speaking with New York Times bestselling author Kate DiCamillo. We're discussing her brand new book, The Puppets of Spell Horse. Well, we did discuss that, but we also just discussed this beautiful journey that she's been on that we as readers have been able to take along with her as well. Luana says fairy tales is such a beautiful genre where the message of fantasy and reality intersect. Great life
Oh,
lessons. Luana, that is exactly what we were talking about. That is so. I totally agree with that. I think that is such a great thing. And so, Kate, thank you so much for this gift again for you guys on Amazon. Make sure you guys go ahead and click it through. Go ahead and get your copy of the new book and add some of Kate's other books for yourself. You can say it's for the kids, but you can order it for yourself. It'll be okay. We're not going to judge you here. That's not
no,
what we do.
no, we're gonna celebrate you. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna celebrate you. Yeah.
Right. Kate, how can our audience stay connected with you?
I am on Facebook. I post on there once a week, and
Okay.
you can connect with me anytime by picking up a book. That's where I am. We
There you
can
go.
connect through story. Yeah.
Love that. Well, Kate, I really appreciate you again. Thank you again for stopping by and looking forward to our next chat together.
Thank you, Cyrus. Thank you for the beautiful, profound questions. It was really wonderful to talk with you.
I
I
appreciate that. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents. Until next time, I'm Cyrus Webb saying thank you so much for being with us. We'll talk to you again real soon. Take care.
I